Welcome to Folktales. In the heart of Lagos, a billionaire's death awakens a furious spirit. Secrets buried in wealth, a hidden daughter, and a broken oath to the ancestors. This is the tale of the Glass Tower Widow. In the heart of Lagos, where glass towers pierce the sky like silver spears, Aduni Bakare sat in her penthouse office, surrounded by the empire she and her late husband had built. The city sprawled beneath her like a glittering carpet of ambition and dreams. But tonight something was wrong. The air conditioning hummed, yet she felt a chill that reached her bones. 3 months had passed since Emeka's funeral. 3 months since the most powerful tech mogul in West Africa had been laid to rest with honors that befitted a king. Yet Aduni could not rest. The shadows in their Banana Island mansion whispered secrets she dared not acknowledge. The mirrors reflected movements where none should be, and every night she heard his voice calling her name. But not with love. With accusation. The Mercedes-Benz S-Class that once carried them to social galas now sat untouched in the garage, gathering dust like forgotten promises. Her Hermes bags remained unopened, her jewelry untouched. Wealth meant nothing when haunted by guilt. A woman who cannot find peace, her grandmother used to say, carries secrets heavier than gold. The old woman's words echoed in her mind as she stared at their wedding photo on her mahogany desk. Emeka smiled back at her, but in the reflection of the glass, she saw something else entirely. His face was twisted with rage, his mouth moving as if speaking words she couldn't hear. Tonight, as thunder rolled across the Lagos skyline and rain began to streak the floor-to-ceiling windows, Aduni would discover just how heavy those secrets could be. The ancestors were stirring, and the dead always demand their due. The crystal chandelier in the Bakare family mansion swayed without wind. Kemi, Aduni's younger sister-in-law, clutched her designer Louis Vuitton handbag tighter as she entered the marble foyer. She had come to collect Emeka's personal effects, but the house felt different, wrong. The contemporary African masks that once welcomed guests now seemed to leer from the walls. The smell of burning sage couldn't mask the underlying scent of decay that seemed to seep from the very foundations of the house. "Sister Aduni?" she called, her voice echoing through the hallways adorned with contemporary African art worth millions. Her red-bottom Louboutin heels clicked against the Italian marble as anxiety crept up her spine. The BMW X7 in the driveway confirmed Aduni was home, but silence was her only answer. Even the house staff, usually bustling with activity, were nowhere to be seen. The grandfather clock in the corner had stopped at 11:47, the exact time of Emeka's death. In the master bedroom, she found Aduni standing before the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring at the city lights that twinkled like fallen stars. Her designer black dress hung loose on her frame. The vibrant woman who once commanded boardrooms and charity galas now looked like a shadow of herself. Dark circles rimmed her eyes, and her usually immaculate hair fell in disheveled waves. "He's angry," Aduni whispered without turning, her breath fogging the glass. "I can feel his anger burning through these walls like acid." Kemi felt the temperature drop 10 degrees in seconds. This wasn't grief. This was something far more dangerous. Something that made her skin crawl and her heart race with primal fear. Tunde Adeleye, the family banker for 2 decades, sat across from the Bakare family in his Victoria Island office. His usually calm demeanor cracked as he spread documents across the polished mahogany table. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows on faces that would soon be forever changed. Outside, the Lagos traffic honked incessantly, but inside this room, silence reigned like a funeral shroud. "There are irregularities," he began, adjusting his gold-rimmed glasses with trembling fingers. His expensive suit couldn't hide the sweat beading on his forehead. Emeka's accounts show massive transfers in the weeks before his death. Money moved to offshore accounts in Switzerland and the Cayman Islands. Properties transferred to shell companies that exist only on paper. Aduni's brother-in-law, Chidi, leaned forward in his tailored Armani suit, his Rolex catching the light as he gripped the table edge. "What exactly are you saying, Tunde?" The banker's hands trembled as he pulled out another folder, this one sealed with red wax. 17 billion naira. Gone. Vanished into accounts that don't officially exist. The words fell like stones into still water, sending ripples of shock through the room. Funmi gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Kemi's eyes widened in disbelief. But it was Aduni's reaction that chilled them all to the bone. She smiled. A cold, knowing smile that spoke of secrets darker than missing money, deeper than betrayal. Her eyes held depths that seemed to reflect the fires of hell itself. "He thought he could hide it from me," she whispered, her voice carrying an otherworldly echo. But the dead tell no lies, and they never forget broken promises. At 3:33 a.m., the security cameras at the Bakare mansion recorded something that defied all logic and reason. A figure moving through locked doors, gliding across marble floors without making a sound. The motion sensors triggered in sequence, lights blazing on throughout the house. But when the guards arrived, they found only the lingering scent of her favorite perfume, Chanel No. 5, mixed with something else. Something that smelled of earth and decay. Chidi's wife, Funmi, was the first to see her. She woke in their Lekki Phase 1 home to find Aduni standing at the foot of her bed, still wearing the black Valentino dress from the bank meeting. But her eyes held depths that belonged to the grave. They glowed with an inner fire that had nothing to do with life and everything to do with rage that transcended death. "Where is it?" she asked, her voice carrying the echo of empty tombs and broken oaths. "Where is my daughter's inheritance?" Funmi screamed, a sound that shattered the night silence and brought the entire household running. By the time Chidi burst through the bedroom door with their security detail, Aduni was gone. Only wet footprints remained on the Persian rug, footprints that led nowhere and dried before their eyes. The temperature in the room had dropped so drastically that their breath came out in visible puffs. Funmi pointed at the mirror above their dresser with a shaking finger. Written in the condensation, in Aduni's elegant handwriting, were the words, "The ancestors are watching. The oath must be honored." But Funmi knew something the others didn't. She knew exactly what oath Aduni was talking about, and why her spirit refused to rest. The next morning, the surviving members of the Bakari family gathered in the boardroom of Emeka's tech company. The glass conference table reflected their worried faces as Lagos traffic hummed 30 floors below. Chidi, impeccable in his navy Tom Ford suit, called the meeting to order. His wife Funmi sat pale and shaken, her usual confident demeanor replaced by barely concealed terror. Kemi arrived in dark sunglasses, her hands trembling as she set down her phone. "We cannot continue like this," Chidi declared, loosening his silk tie. "The company's stock is plummeting. Investors are asking questions. And after last night," he glanced at his wife, who shuddered visibly. "After last night, I think we all know this isn't about grief anymore." The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, but somehow the room felt shrouded in shadow. Kemi removed her sunglasses, revealing bloodshot eyes. "She came to me too," she whispered. "3 nights ago, standing in my kitchen at dawn, asking about the money. About some promise Amika made." She pulled out her iPhone with shaking hands, showing them a video. I recorded this." The footage showed Aduni's reflection in the kitchen window, but when Kemi turned the camera toward the kitchen itself, nothing was there. Just empty space where a woman's voice continued speaking. Funmi finally broke her silence, her voice barely audible above the air conditioning. "There's something you all need to know. Something about the night before Emeka died. About what he confessed to me. About what he stole and from whom." The confession that followed would unravel 20 years of carefully constructed lies and reveal a betrayal so profound that even death could not contain the rage it spawned. Funmi's voice shook as she revealed the truth that had been eating at her for months. "Emeka came to our house the night before he died. He was broken, desperate. He told me about a woman named Kioma, a woman he had been seeing for 15 years. The words hung in the air like a curse, each syllable adding weight to the growing horror in the room. He said he loved her, more than his reputation, more than his wealth, even more than Aduni. Funmi's hands clutched her Gucci purse like an anchor. Kioma had his child, a daughter named Amara. For 15 years, he supported them secretly, setting up accounts, buying property, making plans for their future. The revelation struck the family like lightning, illuminating dark corners they never knew existed. But the worst was yet to come. 3 years ago, Kioma was diagnosed with cancer. Stage 4, she needed experimental treatment that cost millions, treatment not available in Nigeria. Emeka promised her everything, his entire fortune if necessary. He swore on his ancestors' graves that he would save her and secure their daughter's future. Funmi's voice broke. But when the board discovered his plans to liquidate company assets, they threatened exposure. His reputation, his family's honor, everything would be destroyed. The room fell silent except for the hum of traffic far below. So he made a choice, Funmi whispered. He chose his image over his promises. He let Kioma die while her treatment money sat in accounts he was too coward to touch. And now Aduni knows. She knows about the daughter who rightfully owns half of everything. She knows about the woman who died because her husband was more afraid of scandal than of breaking a sacred oath. Outside, thunder rumbled across the Lagos sky, and in the reflection of the conference room windows, they could swear they saw a woman's silhouette watching them from the shadows. Amara Okafor arrived at the Bakare mansion on a Tuesday morning, carrying nothing but a weathered envelope and a determination that burned brighter than the Lagos sun. At 22, she possessed her father's sharp intellect and her mother's fierce spirit. Her natural hair was styled in elegant braids, her simple but elegant dress a stark contrast to the opulence surrounding her. She had spent 3 years working multiple jobs in London, studying architecture while caring for her dying mother. The security guards at the gate were unprepared for her quiet authority. "I'm here to see Mrs. Bakare," she announced, her British accent tinged with unmistakable Nigerian undertones. "Tell her Kioma's daughter has come home." The name sent ripples of recognition through the staff. Everyone in the household had heard the whispers, seen the strange occurrences, felt the presence that haunted their halls. When Kemi finally met her at the door, the family resemblance was undeniable. Amara had Emeka's eyes, his stubborn chin, his way of standing that commanded attention without demanding it. "My mother told me everything before she died," Amara said simply, holding out the envelope. About the promises he made. About the money that should have saved her life. About the inheritance that belongs to me. Her voice never rose, never wavered, but it carried the weight of righteous anger and inherited pain. Inside the envelope were photographs spanning 15 years. Emeka holding a baby Amara at Lagos beaches. Father and daughter at London parks during his business trips. Bank statements showing consistent deposits to accounts in Kioma's name, deposits that stopped abruptly 3 years ago. And finally, a handwritten letter from Emeka, dated the day before his death, confessing everything and begging forgiveness from both his secret family and his ancestors for the oath he was about to break. That night, as if summoned by her daughter's arrival, Aduni's spirit manifested with unprecedented fury. Every mirror in the mansion cracked simultaneously at midnight. The temperature throughout the house plummeted until frost formed on the windows despite Lagos's tropical heat. The staff fled in terror as doors slammed without wind and lights flickered in patterns that spelled out accusations in Morse code. Amara, staying in the mansion's guest wing, experienced the haunting differently. She woke to find Aduni sitting in the antique chair by the window, no longer the tormented spirit others saw, but the elegant woman from the wedding photos. "My dear child," Aduni spoke, her voice filled with maternal warmth and profound sadness. "I'm sorry for what you lost. I'm sorry for what my husband stole from you and your mother. But you're not at rest," Amara observed, studying this ethereal version of her father's wife. "Your anger is consuming this family, destroying what's left of his legacy. Is that what you want?" Aduni's form flickered like candlelight in wind. "I want justice. I want the truth acknowledged. I want the oath honored that my husband broke." Her eyes blazed with otherworldly fire. "But most of all, I want you to have what should have been yours." The conversation that followed revealed the true depth of the curse plaguing the family. Aduni explained how her spirit had been trapped between worlds, unable to rest until the broken promises were mended. "In life, I was the perfect wife," she whispered. "I asked no questions, made no demands. I accepted his long business trips, his distant behavior, his gradual withdrawal of affection. I enabled his betrayal through my silence." Her form began to fade as dawn approached. "But in death I will not be silent. The ancestors demand justice, and I am their instrument." The family gathered once more, this time in the mansion's main living room where Emeka's portrait hung above the marble fireplace. Chidi had spent the night researching traditional remedies for restless spirits, while Kemi consulted with elders from their ancestral village. Funmi had barely slept, haunted by guilt over keeping Emeka's secrets. And at the center of it all sat Amara, calm as still water, but with depths that hinted at storms. "The money isn't the issue," Amara began, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "The 17 billion naira that disappeared? I know where it is. It's sitting in accounts my father established for my future, accounts he was too afraid to tell anyone about." She pulled out a tablet, showing them bank statements that made their eyes widen. "He may have failed to save my mother, but he never stopped providing for me." Chidi leaned forward, his business mind racing. "Then what do you want? What will it take to make this stop?" Around them, the house seemed to hold its breath. No creaking floorboards, no whispered voices, no sudden temperature drops. Even the dead were listening. "I want acknowledgement," Amara said simply. "I want my mother's name cleared. She wasn't a mistress or a homewrecker. She was a brilliant biochemist who believed in love and trusted in promises. I want her memory honored." She stood, moving to stand beneath her father's portrait. "I want to be recognized as his daughter, not his secret. And I want this family to understand that love isn't about ownership. It's about sacrifice." The room fell silent as her words sank in. These weren't the demands of greed or revenge, but the plea of a daughter who had lost both parents and was still fighting for their dignity. "Most importantly," Amara continued, her eyes finding each of theirs, "I want the oath my father made to be honored. Not the one he broke about the money, but the one he made to my mother about always protecting family. Because that's what we are now, whether we choose to acknowledge it or not." Elder Mama Kemi arrived from Ibadan at dawn, her ancient Land Rover rattling up the mansion's driveway like thunder announcing a storm. She was Aduni's great-aunt, a woman whose knowledge of ancestral traditions ran deeper than Lagos's foundations. Her agbada was pristine white, her jeel wrapped with the authority of someone who had communed with spirits for 7 decades. "The dead do not lie, but they can be trapped by unfinished business," she declared, studying the mansion with eyes that seemed to see beyond the physical realm. Her walking stick, carved from Iroko wood and adorned with cowrie shells, tapped against the marble floors as she examined each room. "This spirit is not evil. She is in pain, pain that has fermented into rage, but pain nonetheless." Under her guidance, they prepared for the ritual of truth, a ceremony that would either free Aduni's spirit or bind it forever to the realm of the living. White chalk symbols were drawn on the floors, creating pathways between the world of the living and the realm of ancestors. Kola nuts were broken, palm wine was poured, and the sacred words that had been spoken for generations began to weave their ancient magic. "Emeka Bakare," Mama Kemi called into the gathering twilight. "You have been summoned to answer for your broken oath. The weight of your betrayal has chained your wife's spirit to this realm. Come forward and face the consequences of your choices." The air grew thick with expectation, heavy with the weight of impending judgment. The family formed a circle in the living room, with Amara at the center holding a photograph of her mother, while Chidi clutched one of Aduni. The ritual that would determine their family's fate was about to begin. At exactly 11:47, the hour of Emeka's death, the temperature in the room dropped dramatically. Candle flames bent without wind, and the shadows on the walls began to move independently of their sources. Aduni manifested slowly, her form more solid than before. her presence filling the room with otherworldly authority. I married a man who promised me honesty. Her voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere, carrying the weight of 20 years of deception. I bore his name, supported his ambitions, stood beside him as he built an empire on foundations of lies. Her form flickered between the elegant woman in the wedding photos and something far more terrifying, a spirit, consumed by betrayal and rage. But I was not innocent, she continued, her confession shocking the family into absolute silence. I knew about Kioma. I had known for years. I hired private investigators, read his emails, followed his money trails. I knew about the daughter he loved more than the family he claimed. Her ethereal form turned toward Amara, and for a moment, maternal tenderness replaced the rage in her eyes. I knew, and I did nothing to stop it. The revelation struck like lightning. I could have exposed him, could have demanded divorce, could have fought for what was mine by law. But I was trapped by pride, by the fear of scandal, by the need to maintain the perfect image of the perfect Nigerian wife. Her form began to solidify further, becoming more human with each word. Instead, I enabled his betrayal through my silence. I became complicit in the death of an innocent woman and the abandonment of a child who deserved a father's love. Mama Kemi nodded gravely. The ancestors hear your truth, Adoni. But truth alone is not enough. What justice do you seek? The question hung in the air like incense, waiting for an answer that would determine whether this spirit found peace or remained forever trapped between worlds of guilt and rage. I seek no revenge, Aduni's spirit declared, her form now fully materialized in the center of the room. Revenge is for the living, and I am beyond such earthly concerns. I seek only what should have been done in life, the acknowledgement of truth, and the healing of wounds that have festered for too long. Her gaze settled on each family member before finally resting on Amara. Chidi, you have managed the company with integrity, but you've built your success on a foundation you knew was cracked. You suspected the truth, but asked no questions because the answers would have been inconvenient. Your silence was complicity. Chidi bowed his head, accepting the judgment of the dead. From this day forward, you will establish a foundation in Kioma's name, dedicated to providing medical care for women who cannot afford treatment. Half of Amika's estate will fund this mission. Kemi, sweet Kemi, you chose willful blindness over painful truth. You saw the signs, heard the rumors, but convinced yourself that family loyalty meant protecting lies rather than confronting them. Kemi's tears fell like rain on drought-stricken earth. You will use your influence in Lagos society to ensure Amara is welcomed as a legitimate member of this family. Your social connections will open doors that were previously barred to her. Finally, Aduni turned to Funmi, her expression softening slightly. You alone tried to honor truth, even when it was dangerous. You gave Emeka the chance to make things right before his death. Your burden is not guilt, but the responsibility of ensuring this family learns from its mistakes. She paused, her form beginning to fade slightly. And you, my dear Amara, carry no guilt at all. You are the victim of this betrayal, not its perpetrator. But you have the power to transform this family's legacy from one of deception to one of healing. The spirit's voice grew stronger, more authoritative. The oath that must be honored is not about money or property. It's about family. About recognizing that love creates bonds that transcend traditional boundaries. Amara is Emeka's daughter, which makes her my daughter as well. She will take her rightful place in this family, and together you will build something worthy of the ancestors' approval. As dawn broke over Lagos, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, the ritual reached its climax. Mama Kemi raised her ancient hands toward the heavens, calling upon the ancestors to witness the healing that was about to take place. The family had spent the entire night in ceremony, breaking down walls of deception and building bridges of truth. By the authority of the ancestors and the power of truth spoken in sacred space, Mama Kemi declared, let the broken oath be mended, let the restless spirit find peace, and let this family be whole. Aduni's form began to glow with soft, warm light, her expression transforming from rage to serenity. I am ready, she whispered. The truth has been spoken, the wounds acknowledged, and the path forward made clear. One by one, each family member stepped forward to make their pledge. Chidi promised to honor Kioma's memory and provide for Amara as he would his own daughter. Kemi swore to use her influence to ensure Amara was accepted in Lagos society. Funmi committed to helping Amara understand both her father's failures and his genuine love. And Amara. Amara forgave them all, choosing healing over hatred, unity over division. Remember, Aduni's spirit said as she began to fade into the morning light, a family's true wealth is not measured in naira or properties, but in the strength of its bonds and the honesty of its love. Honor that truth, and you will never again need to fear the judgment of ancestors or the consequences of broken oaths. Her final words echoed through the mansion as her form dissolved into golden light that seemed to bless every corner of the home. 6 months later, the Bakare Okafor Foundation had become Nigeria's leading provider of medical care for underprivileged women. Amara had taken her place as a respected member of Lagos society, her architectural firm designing hospitals and clinics across West Africa. The family gathered every Sunday for dinner, no longer haunted by secrets, but strengthened by the truth that had once nearly destroyed them. And in the mansion where a restless spirit once wandered, there was finally peace. If you enjoyed the story, then like, subscribe, and share this story with your loved ones. Also, tell us in the comments where you are watching from.